Hey everybody, we are back with another season of Sitting on Top of the World. This season's going to be a little bit different. I want to be a little more informative. The funny's still going to be there, don't worry. But I want to be a little more informative when it comes to accessibility, especially around the city of Halifax. And Cooking with Brian will now be an actual cooking show. What a concept. So don't fret, I'll still have some humor in there, but I'd like this to be a little more informative. I've got my podcast, Sitting Down with Brian George, on the go as well. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. It's on a little bit of a break at the moment, but that'll be back soon enough. For those of you who remember last season, I did an episode where I went down to the waterfront in Halifax and I featured where all the accessible washrooms are. So had a great time doing that, and well, we're going to do it again. I chose Quinpool Road this time, just around the corner from my place. So it's time again for another episode of Everybody Pees. First up, we have the Atlantica Hotel on the corner of Roby and Quinpool. They have an accessible washroom right off the front desk, off the lobby. It's across from one of their banquet halls. Just a heads up, it is usually locked whenever there's nothing going on in that banquet hall. They will open it for you, they will unlock it, just go to the front desk. I've had to do that a few times. And the hallway leading to the washroom is a little tight, it's a little narrow. So if your chair is a little wider, you may have some difficulty. I can make it down there myself, but it's something to think about. The cheeky neighbor, the next one, is just down the street on the same side of the road on Quinpool, formerly Relish, just opened up not that long ago. They also have an accessible washroom. Before I continue, I should point out that with COVID-19, some of these places might not be open, so you might want to think about that if you're headed out on Quinpool and you're having an accessibility issue or you use a wheelchair and you need to use a washroom. Some of these places might not be open. Cheeky Neighbor is currently open, so as I said, they have an accessible washroom as well. Just down the street, we have the Dilly Dally Cafe. They have a ramp at the back of the building. It's a little tight when you get in there. If you're going to eat, to sit down can be very difficult. But the washroom is right off the back door, and it's very large, and it has an automatic button. So no questions and no problems there. Very easy to use, very easy to get to. And just across the street from it, there is Starbucks. And most Starbucks, they have an accessible washroom. They are currently closed. I know that for a fact because I've been jonesing for Starbucks coffee like you would not believe. But they are currently closed. They do have, I believe, 2 accessible washrooms that are in use as well when they reopen. Across the street, there is a Superstore. The Superstore does have an accessible washroom, very large washroom. Pretty sure you could have a hockey game in there. One thing I will point out is it's down a hallway, and for whatever reason they decide to put some carts down that hallway. I've mentioned it to staff multiple times. Nothing seems to get done. It's very frustrating, but if you can manage to get down there, I've done it before. I can fit down there just barely, but I can get into that washroom. But if you can get in there, the washroom is fully accessible, very large. Just getting to it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. In that same complex, there's Canadian Tire. They have an accessible washroom as well. You'll have to go to the automotive section to get the key. It is locked. The last time I went in there, the key for the men's washroom was not working. They had to give me the key to the women's washroom, which worked just fine, but it can be difficult whether they fix it or not, I'm not sure. There's also the Suite Hereafter from the video, but the ramp going into the building is incredibly steep. I've never tried it myself. I've always had someone with me to help me up that ramp, but if you're feeling adventurous and you really want some cheesecake, feel free. But once you do get in there, the washroom is fully accessible. Next up, we have Athens Restaurant. Nice little Greek restaurant, great food, really extensive menu. They have an accessible washroom. It is also up a ramp similar to the Artisan Cheesecake place, but it's not as steep, so a little bit easier to get to, but a very large washroom as well. I think it was added after the fact. Quinpool is a little bit older street, and so is this building, but it is there and it's fully accessible. And then next we have a little further down, we have Phil's Seafood. If you love seafood like me, you definitely have to check this place out. Very affordable, great food. And just recently I was in there before COVID-19 happened and really took a hold of everything, and it is fully accessible as well. Across the street from there we have Heartwood. It's a vegan restaurant. I've been in there with a few people who just happen to be vegan, and very great, nice restaurant. They have an accessible washroom, but I use the term accessible loosely. I can use it, but I literally have to go in straight, lean back, grab the door, and shut it behind me because there's no room to turn around. So I can use it personally. I also have long arms, so I can reach back no problem. But you'll have to take that into consideration if you plan on going there and using the washroom, having access to the facilities. Further down from there, we have McDonald's. McDonald's does have an accessible washroom. Now, I was in there once, this was about a year ago, and the stall was very, very small. I was actually scraping the side of my chair against the wall to get in there. That McDonald's has since gone through a renovation, similar to most McDonald's in this country, and I haven't been in there since, but I'm hoping they fix that problem. Now, having said that, I made it work, so it is accessible. Further down from there, formerly the Oxford Theatre, we have the Oxford Tap Room. If you fancy yourself a beer and you want to go in with a few friends, have a great time, I definitely recommend it. I've gone in there a few times myself. Great atmosphere, very friendly service. The owner's great. I've talked to him a few times. It's owned by Garrison. And of course, they have an accessible washroom. Apparently, from what I hear, he was very concerned with making the building accessible, and they've definitely done that. So definitely check that out. Across the street, we have Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons does have an accessible washroom. The only issue I would say is they have two entrances, and only one has an automatic button. Unfortunately, to get to that door with the automatic button, you essentially have to go out into the parking lot to get to it. So it can be a little dangerous, but the washroom, once you get in there, is fully accessible. And then across the street from there, we have the Lucky Penny Cafe. They do have a lip getting into the front door, and the door opens in, which can be an issue. I've typically only been there with someone else, so that's made it a lot easier. The last time I was in there to use the washroom was accessible. I believe they had put a couple chairs in there that weren't being used at the time. We had to take them out, which never understood that, but once the room was cleared out, it was accessible. But that is, again, something to think about. And then on the other side, this will be the last one, the Irving, the gas station. They also have an accessible washroom. Funny story about that, when I finished the Halifax Odyssey tour last October, I got about 2 minutes in and I realized, ooh, I'm going to use the washroom. At the other end of Quinpool, well, there are no washrooms unless I'm knocking on strangers' doors at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I boogied to that Irving as fast as possible, and fortunately that washroom was accessible. So take it from me, you can definitely use that one. So let's recap. We have the Atlantica Hotel, the Cheeky Neighbor Diner, Dilly Dally Cafe, Starbucks, Sweet Hereafter Artisan Cheesecake, Superstore, Canadian Tire, Athens Family Restaurant, Phil's Seafood, Heartwood Vegan Restaurant, McDonald's, Oxford Tap Room, Lucky Penny Cafe, Tim Hortons, and Irving. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season. I hope you are too. I'll be back next month with a new episode of Cooking with Brian. Until then, stay safe, stay home if you can, keep your hands clean, cover your mouth when you cough, and just play it safe. I'll see you next time. Cheers. Hey everybody, welcome to Season 4 of Sitting Down with Brian. Oh God, that is wrong. Wrong show.